Media coverage of the events in Egypt have been unusual in that they've been so sustained. We've seen sort of wall-to-wall coverage on CNN for literally days on end. CNN's gotten a significant bump in ratings out of this. The effect of this has been an interesting one. I think that it's really taken some options off the table for the Obama administration. It's not really possible for the Obama administration to take sort of a very realpolitik approach to this. It's pushed the the Egyptian people front and center in the mind of the American people. In a lot of ways, this is the first sort of sympathetic, lengthy coverage of the Arab street that we've seen arguably since 9/11. As a result, you end up with a situation where Obama, when he gives his first speech on the Egypt situation, he uses the term the Egyptian people 8 times in 5 minutes.
Enormous demonstrations by the Egyptian people.
So I think it shows sort of a reorientation in opinion, which may, in the long run, reflect in a reorientation in policy.
Before answering the question, it's important to recognize what's happening on the ground is a people-led grassroots movement made up of all sectors of Egyptian society. Millions of people are taking the streets demanding democracy, an end to repression, an end to torture, an end to state violence. And therefore, if people in the United States really care about democracy in Egypt, then they would support and stand in line with the calls for democracy that are coming from the ground in Egypt. And their demand is end the Mubarak regime, Mubarak step down now. So what is needed are people in the United States to put pressure on the Obama administration to participate in pressuring Mubarak to take that step down. If Mubarak stays, we will see a continuation of what Egyptians have experienced for the past 30 years, which is dictatorship, lack of any freedom of speech, control of the state media, torture, attacks against journalists, human rights activists.
There's been a lot of attention to sort of the role of the new media in these revolutions sort of across the region. A lot of people have sort of in a very kind of casual way said, oh, you know, it's the internet. But I think there's sort of a distinction here to be drawn between the hard news that you can get on the internet and what's really changed in the last couple of years in terms of social media. And what's happening here is that there's an interaction between where people go to get their entertainment, where they go to socialize, and where they get their political information. And so it becomes much more of a mass phenomenon where, you know, going to dissident blogs and using masked IP addresses to do that is certainly not a mass activity. A call to action sent through Facebook is something that is much more easily spread to a much larger number of people.
There are many possible scenarios, and at this point it's still unclear. The people who are on the ground holding down Tahrir Square, or Liberation Square as we speak, are calling for a transition government followed by a democratic governing system where every sector of society has equal participation.